is from Mark 10:35 through 45, the request of James and John. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him. "Teacher," they said, "we want you to do for us whatever we ask." "What do you mean? What do you want me to do for you?" he asked. They replied, "Let one of us sit at your right and the other at your left in your glory." "You don't know what you are asking," Jesus said. "Can you drink the cup I drink, or be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with?" "We can," they answered. Jesus said to them, "You will drink the cup I drink and be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with. But sit at my right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those whom they have been prepared." When the 10 heard about this, they became indignant with James and John. Jesus called them together and said, "You know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be the first must be the slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as ransom for many."
So James and John go up to Jesus and they say, "Jesus, we want you to do a favor for us." Don't you hate that when the kid says that? "Will you do something for me?" without knowing what it's going to be? Because you know that the kid knows there's something you're not going to want to do. But if you can say yes before you know what it is, then, well, you might get it. So James and John are being a little odd. "Jesus, will you give me and John whatever we ask for?" And Jesus says, "Depends." They're asking to be at his left and his right. They want to sit up on the dais with him at the big fancy dinners. They want to be on the messianic cabinet, not just the council, the cabinet. And they want people to be able to look up there, and they look up at Jesus, they'll see him, and they'll say, "Aren't they great?" They want to be great. They want to be leaders of all. James and John Jesus called them the Sons of Thunder, which would be a great rock name or maybe a motorcycle gang. But they were rather audacious in their desires. They wanted to be great. Well, we all want to be great. It's part of the way we are. Yeah, we got a couple guys who both want to be great. I think if he should be president, they will have the highest office in the land, and perhaps history will remember them as the great. We'll see. Here's a video I've got on what it means to be great.
Oh, yes, I'm the great pretender. Pretending I'm doing well. My need is so much, I pretend too much. I'm lonely, but no one can tell. Oh, yes, I'm the great pretender. I am the greatest. Times I've told the clown what round he's going down, and this chump ain't no different.
What was the tiny invention?
It was a little button no bigger than your fingernail. But if you pressed it, zam!
Zam?
Zam! Everyone and everything in the universe would go in one multi-glorious, instantaneous disintegration.
Hey, I get it. We're having a dream, Bon.
Oh, thank goodness. I was getting worried. You doubt the powers of the great kazoo? Take that! And that!
Gee, this is great, but our wives won't recognize us. Oh, great kazoo. Could we be back to our normal size, please? Of course. Your wish is my command. One of these days, pow, right in the kiss.
Baby, you're the greatest.
Greatness. Actually, I think Alice was the greatest of the bunch. She put up with the great one. Greatness brings us to two problems. There's a problem of illusion, and there's a problem of confusion. The illusion that the greatness will make you invincible and powerful and righteous. Let's take, for instance, Alexander the Great. Why, he was invincible. He had an undefeated record on the battlefield. He spread his armies from India to Macedonia and Libya, the whole known world. Invincible. He was brought low by a simple mosquito. They think it was malaria that took him down and killed him. So much for invincible. How about powerful? Catherine the Great was remembered for being a very powerful Tsarina in Russia. She got there because her husband, Peter III, was on the throne for 6 months when Catherine's lover staged a coup and had him strangled. Not so great. And greatness is about righteousness. The great Ramses II. He built buildings, he built temples, he built monuments, but the Bible points out that he wasn't so righteous because he's the one who enslaved the children of Israel. That's the illusion of greatness, because greatness makes you think that you've got it all together and that nothing can hurt you and that whatever you do is righteous. And it's just plain not true. In fact, the great I can think of is the great Gazoo. We just saw him, Fred Flintstone's little buddy. He's not living in an illusion because he is an illusion. He's a cartoon. Speaking of cartoons, here's one I absolutely love. The guy is saying, pyramids may rise and fall, but our next speaker will be always remembered as... We don't get it. Pyramids may rise and... How many pyramids had fallen? None. Anyway, we want to be as great as the pyramids, greater than the pyramids. And that's the thing. That is the problem. We come now to the confusion. And this is what Jesus has to deal with when James and John want to be in the second and third positions. You don't know what you're asking, Jesus said. You're confused about what greatness is. You think that greatness is sitting on the high dais of having all this power, and the real greatness is something entirely different. Can you accept the cup that I have to accept? Can you be baptized with the baptism I am going through? Can you do that? And they said, yeah, sure. And they were way confused. They had no idea what the cup was. The cup was suffering. It was his very blood in that cup. His blood for our salvation. And the baptism was the baptism of death. You don't get to greatness unless you go through Golgotha. We have a tough time with that one. We have a tough time with that one. Now, indeed, James and John would have their greatness. They would go through the Golgotha. James would be the first of the disciples, of the actual disciples, to be martyred for his faith. Martyred for Christ. And John wasn't martyred. He lived a long life, but he was tormented and he was chased and badgered by the powers that be. So, in a sense, while John didn't lose his life, he gave his life, his whole life, to Christ. And James gave his life for Christ. You see? That is the power of greatness. And it's the greatness of not having to be first. The other disciples were just really ticked about this because they wanted to know, why do they get away with this kind of ridiculousness? We're all in this together. And Jesus uses this as a teaching moment. He says, listen, being great is not what you think. The Gentiles think it has all to do with power and privilege, and they lord it over each other. But for you to be the greatest, you need to be the last. To be at the beginning, you have to be at the end. And to be recognized as really powerful in Christ, you need to be on your knees washing feet, or floors, or toilets. Giving. That is the road to greatness. Now, our political thing is going on, and sooner or later, like I said, 2 weeks got left, 2 weeks and 2 days. Thank goodness someone's going to be either win or lose, and that will finally get over that. But you know what politics does? It is raises a fella, usually a fellow, up to a higher position. But it's hard to, when you're raised up to that higher position, to keep your feet on the ground. We've got it all over these politicians because we are Christians and we have our feet on the ground. We are where the rubber meets the road, and we can see what needs to be done. And we can do it. A fellow by the name of David Neff writes for Christianity Today. He tells of being at a hospital when a homeless lady comes in and gives birth to a baby. She's been living in a car for months. And the hospital will not release the little boy because he doesn't have a proper place to live. So David and his wife said, well, we'll take her, give her temporary shelter. They got her home. They found out she needed more than just a roof over her head. She didn't know how to pick up the baby when crying and rock the little child and give soothing sounds. She didn't know how to do it. She did a lot more than just a roof over her head. And David and his wife had a chance to give that. How about you? When have you had a chance, or when will you have a chance? You've got to have your eyes open. Not up there for where you can be great, but down here where someone needs you. Because as Martin Luther King put it, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't need a college degree to serve. You don't need to get your subjects and verbs to agree to serve. All you need is a heart of grace, a heart of love, a soul generated by grace. That's it. There's no confusion, no illusion. It's that simple. And that's something that James can do, and John can do, and you can do, and I can do.
Let everything